adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Do you remember what a mixed number is?
Upside down.
No, that's not what a mixed number is. That's an improper fraction.
A number that has a whole number and fraction.
Yes.
That's
So,
what I was gonna say, and then I saw those examples.
So, couple terms. Improper fraction and mixed number. I just asked about mixed number. It is a number and fraction. For example,
Probably say whole number.
2 3/4. That is an example of a mixed number. An improper fraction. That's where the numerator is larger than the denominator. In other words, the top number is bigger than the bottom number. For example, 10/7. So, regular fractions, improper fractions, and mixed numbers. 3 types of fractions we can have. Okay? Clear on those?
Yep.
So sometimes you end up with mixed numbers or improper fractions, and we want to make them into mixed numbers. So we have a process for doing that. (10/7). That's the other one. So this one is a little different. How many 7s fit into 10? 1. How many are left?
3.
Remainder 3. You remember that from long ago? So that is what we have there, but we want to make it a mixed number. So you have 1, and you have 3 parts out of 7 left. Right? So you're going to keep your denominator the same, and your numerator is going to be what your remainder is. Okay? So 14. How many times does 4 go into 14?
3.
3 times, with a remainder of 2. So that is 3 2/4, which is the same as
3
3 1/2. Tracking so far?
Yeah.
All right, good. What about this one? How many times is 3 fit into 15? Molly says 5 times. Is there anything left over, Ethan?
No.
No, so you're done. Okay? All right. So if it fits in completely, just you don't need a fraction afterwards, okay? 6 into 32. 5 times, with how many left over?
2.
So we have
We just write
5 and 2. You don't have to write the middle part. I'm just writing it for note's sake so you know where it's coming from. Can 2/6 be reduced?
Yes.
Yeah, what would it be, Ethan?
5 and 1/3.
Yeah. So that's from improper fraction to mixed number. Okay? Questions?
No.
Good. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go the other way. A mixed number to an improper fraction. This is the circle thing. It is not the circle of life like you learned in 5th grade. There's no life involved here. It's just math. All right. So. So I'm gonna write this out. I'm gonna stretch it out a little bit. You do not have to do all the steps when you do your homework. You can shorten it, but just so you know, so you see it, you have 2. If you have 2 holes, so if you cut a pizza into 5 parts, and you have 2 whole ones, how many pieces are you gonna have?
10.
So 2 is 10/5, right? That'd be like if you cut your pizzas into 5 pieces, and I gave you 2 whole pizzas, you'd have 10 pieces. Okay? But we also have this 3/5 here, right? We don't have a partial pizza here. So it's 10/5 plus 3/5. So how many fifths do we have total? 13. 13 fifths. Okay? So this 10 represents like 2 times 5, which is these two numbers here, 2 times 5.
Can you do it where the
5 times 3 is 10, plus 3 is 9.
That's exactly what we just did.
So can I just do it?
So, hold on. So I'm not asking you to write all this out on your homework. What I'm asking you, I'm just showing you the pieces of it. Okay? 2 represents 2 times 10, or 2 times 5, which is 10. So you have 10 pieces added to your 3. So,
put like times and then the plus sign?
so let me do one more for you here. So you guys want to do 3 times 8. What's 3 times 8?
24.
So you have 24 eighths. And then you want to add the 5 eighths to it. So you have a total of
29.
29
Like
eighths.
the little, what you did last year, you put
So, I will get there. We'll get there. So what you guys desperately want to do on the next page is you want to say, I want to go times here
Yeah.
and then add here.
Yeah.
The one reason I'm writing it out differently is because what do I do first?
Multiply.
Okay, you know that, but if you just showed somebody this, if you just showed them this, you just said times and add there, what if somebody added the numbers first and then multiplied? They'd probably get a different answer, right? So you guys know you need to do multiplication first. So let's do that. 4 times 2
8.
is 8. So 8 halves. And then you want to add that 1 half to it. So you have 9 halves. So we're doing the exact same process that you did in 5th grade, okay? And you did last year a little bit too. Multiply there, add there. So 6 times 8.
48.
48. Add your 5 to that.
53.
53. We doing okay on mixed numbers to improper fractions?
Yeah.
All right. So that's how we convert them. Now we're going to work on adding them and subtracting them. When we add mixed numbers, we want to add the integer, which is the whole number, right, in the beginning. We're going to call it an integer.
You just write the whole number.
The integer. Well, technically it is an integer because, I mean, it is a whole number as well, but the math term we're going to use for it. The integer and fraction separately. Then recombine. So in this example here, I'm going to write this out. Again, I'm going to expand it out so you understand what we're thinking here. And then when you do it on your homework, you don't have to write all the steps. So I've got 3 plus 4 sevenths. Would you agree that 3 and 4 sevenths is the same thing as 3 plus 4 sevenths?
Yeah.
Plus 6 plus 2 sevenths. Addition, we can change the order of. 2 plus 4 plus 3 is the same as 4 plus 3 plus 2. Okay? So we're going to change the order. We're going to say 3 plus 6, because those are our integers, plus 4 sevenths plus 2 sevenths. So now they're next to each other, easier to add. What's 3 plus 6?
9.
9. What's 4 sevenths plus 2 sevenths?
6, 7.
So 9 plus 6 sevenths. Now we're going to combine them back together. So our final answer is 9 and 6 sevenths. Okay. I know that's like we stretched it out there, okay? You don't have to write what I'd like you to write is at least get, you know, this piece here. You don't need to write this one and this one. This piece, and then you can do your final answer there. You could kind of skip a couple things here. But if they're longer ones, you might want to rewrite the whole thing. Emery.
Can I do it in a different order? So can I go make the common denominator and then add more numbers and then add
So in this next example, because we need common denominators, you want to do the common denominators first?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. So let's do it. So what would common denominator be?
4.
So you want to say times 2 here, times 2. So we have 3 and 1/4 plus 8 and 2/4. Right, you want to make common denominators there? You guys you're smart enough and skilled enough to add the whole numbers here. 3 plus 8 is 11, and then 1/4 plus 2/4 is
3/4.
3/4. So we have 11 and 3/4. So I skipped writing a step there. Okay, I'm okay with that. It's helpful. The more you write, the more we can figure out what you got wrong if you got something wrong. All right, this one's got common denominators. So Tammy, help me with this one. What do I do first on example 13 here?
You add 3. Right now?
What? Let's write them down. What do you want? How do you want to write it? Tell me what to write. 4 and 3/8 plus
Plus 2 plus 7.
2 and 7/8. Okay. So what's next?
You add 4 and 2.
Add 4 and 2. So we got 4 plus 2 gives me 6. We also want to add my 3/8 and 7/8. And that gives me what? 10/8. Oh, what do we end up with there? An improper fraction.
Turn into a 7.
So let's make that. So if I've got 6 holes right now and I've got 10 pieces. So now what do I got to do with those 10 pieces if there's only 8 pieces in a pizza? So this is like 6 plus 10/8. And 10/8 is the same as 8/8 and 2/8, right? So 8/8 is the same. We don't have to write that. We could just say this is the number 1. So 6 plus 1 is 7.
And 2/8.
So some of you do those steps in your head, that's fine. You don't have to write all the steps out. Taking 10/8, that's like the same as 1 and 2/8. What should we do with 2/8 though?
I'm confused. We should reduce it.
We should reduce it. So let's reduce it and then we'll go back and look at it again. 7 and 1/4. All right.
And then some more.
Subtracting mixed numbers. There are 2 ways you can do it. 2 ways you can do it. There's start with a mixed number, make them all improper fractions, subtract, and then turn them back into mixed numbers. That's the first way. The second way is subtract the whole and the fraction separating, possibly carry the 1. Now, I like the first way better in some senses, certain senses, and the second way better in other circumstances. So let's do example. So if you look at this, example 15 and example 16 are the exact same problems. So we're going to do them both ways so you can see how both ways work. Okay? So we'll do the first way first. We're going to turn 3 and 7/8 into an improper fraction. So you guys like to do the multiply here and then add this. So 3 times 8 is 24. plus my 7.
Is 30.
So 31
Yeah.
eighths minus, and 4 times 1 is
4. Plus 1 is 5.
4 plus 1 over 4. So we got minus 5 over 4. So there's our problem with improper fractions. When we add and subtract, what has to be true about our denominators?
It had to be the same.
Have to be the same. So times 2 times 2. So we end up with 31 eighths minus 10 eighths. Doing okay so far on this?
Yeah.
What's 31 minus 10? 21 eighths is the same as
Oh, we're supposed
how many
to.
times? What's it back as a? We're gonna go back to a mixed number. How many times does 8 fit into 21?
Oh, 8,
2.
2 times. How many are left over? 5.
yeah.
Okay, so we started with mixed numbers, we made them improper fractions, and we ended up back with mixed numbers. Okay. That's one way to do it. Okay? The other way to do it, subtract your whole numbers, and then subtract your fractions. So, let's make common denominators here. So I have 3 and 7 eighths minus 1 and 2 eighths. Subtract the whole numbers. What's 3 minus 1, Luke?
2.
What's 7 eighths minus 2 eighths? 5 eighths.
That's it.
That one went pretty quick that way, right? So some ways, like in this case, I like that way better than the first way, right? Because the first way was more work. Let's try the next ones. We got 2 of the same problems again. Let's make common denominators.
21.
21, so I got to do, that can't be 21, it can be 24.
Oh, yeah, 24.
Times 8 on this one, so you have 4 and 8 over 24. And this one minus, just times 3, 2, and 15. So both of them we can write that way because they're the same problems. We good on that piece?
Yes.
Yeah.
Questions on making common denominators? Ethan?
Well, I got a question. I know, example 17. How'd you get 15?
Um,
8
Times 5 by 3.
Yep. So,
Well, yeah, but if you have to go to the least, well, yeah, I know, but then you get 8.
so Ethan, we're trying to get to 24 on the bottom. So on this fraction on the right here, we did 8 times 3 gets us 24. So we can multiply the top by 3. So 5 times 3 gives us 15.
Yeah, but then what do you do with the 8?
It was times 3. 8 times 3.
No, on the other side.
On this side, 3 times 8, because that gives me 24.
Yeah?
And then up here, 1 times 8, because I did 8 on the bottom. So multiply the top and bottom by the same thing. Here, multiply the top and bottom by the same thing. I'm not going to do this side times 8, because I'm going to have 8 times 8, which gives me 64. So then I don't have common denominators anymore. Okay. So whatever you multiply the bottom of this fraction by, multiply the top of that fraction by. The other fraction, you might have different numbers when you multiply them. Okay? All right, which way do you guys want to do first?
The circle.
Circle one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do the left side first. So 24 times 4 plus 8. 24 times 4 is, let me just tell you,
Yeah. Idiot.
No.
48 plus 48.
92.
Yes, 92.
92?
Yeah.
Okay.
48 times 48. 92.
Plus 8 gives me,
100.
did we do 24 times 4 right?
Wait.
It's got to be 96. It's going to be 96 plus 8 gives me
102.
104
104.
over 24. This one, 24 times 2 is
48.
48 plus 15 gives me 63 over 24.
I was confused because I thought your answer was 2 and 15 is 24.
Oh no, that's what I'm subtracting.
Oh.
All right, we back on track now?
Makes sense now.
All right. So 104 minus 63. You want me to just tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, it is 41 24ths. And I will tell you that 24 only fits in there one time. And there are 17 left over. Okay. So we went from mixed number to improper fraction, subtracted, then went back to mixed number. Let's look at the other one. 4 and 8 24ths minus 2 and 15 24ths. So subtract the whole numbers first. I know, but we're doing it the other way because there's two ways to do it. 4 minus 2 is
Oh, you just did it.
2. 8 minus 15 though. Can we do that?
No.
No, so we have to kind of borrow, right? So this way it gets a little harder now. So when you borrow a whole, so you cut a pizza into 24 pieces, and I'm going to borrow a whole pizza. How many pieces am I borrowing? 24.
One piece.
All of them. So 24 of them. So this is going to be a 1 and 24 over 24, right?
So it's 2.
So it's getting a little complicated. Notice in my problem up here, this 8 here and this 15, 8 is smaller than 15. Do you agree?
Yeah.
When you do these and you have 8 and 15, or a smaller number and a bigger number, I would do this way. Do the improper fraction way.
When you have a what? You what?
Because now I've got to think about this as 1 and 24 over 24, and I have my 8 24 still. Minus my 15 24s, because I already took away my 2. Right, it just gets a little harder that way. So I end up with 1 and 32 24ths minus 15 24ths gives me 1 and 17 24ths. We get the same answer. But that's a lot more difficult. And I know I walked quickly through the steps because that's just way more difficult and I didn't want to confuse you with the steps. So here's my suggestion for you on the next page. When you're subtracting fractions, okay, I would make common denominators first. Make common denominators. When you do it, if you find out that the first fraction is larger, like they were in examples in 15 and 16, 7 is bigger than 2. Okay? If that's the case, subtract as mixed numbers. Because you don't have to do any borrowing then. Okay? That's what I would do personally. If you find out that the second fraction is larger, like they are in examples 17 and 18, so 15 is bigger than 18, or sorry, 15 is bigger than 8. If the second fraction is larger, I would change to improper fractions. Make them improper fractions, subtract, and then make them back to mixed numbers again. If you are confused of which way to do it, I would suggest making them all improper fractions and then just subtracting and making them back to mixed numbers. So like we did in examples 15 and 17. We turned them into improper fractions. We turned all these into improper fractions. And then we just subtracted. 31 minus 10 gave us 21, and then we made it back to a mixed number. Here we made it improper fractions. 104 over 24 minus 63 over 24 gives us 41. Okay. So if it's confusing of which one to pick when you subtract, make them all improper. Okay? If you like changing things up and like this method for when the first number is bigger, then use that method.